of one of the states in Malaysia, and they're occupying like 3 or 4 floors up above as well. And the beauty of it all is our kids. We had a whole section here of all our students' businesses. Okay, we had 10 booths, but they've been running for since Thursday. So they are flat out now, and so only 2 of them can make it today because they're just so exhausted.
Can we have them say hello?
Sorry?
Your students? Can we have those of your students say hello?
No, but I think they've gone to get something to eat or something, right? So I share with you this one. This is a coconut business, right? He figured a way to extract the coconut juice. I don't know where its contraption is. A coconut juice without exposure to flies and you know, all the dirt and all that. And he had ice in the bucket. Okay, there's like a spike that he just puts the coconut over. It goes in, comes out, it goes through ice, and right immediately at the end of it, there's a tap to open, and the kids, you get cold coconut water immediately. Okay, wow. And he won awards for it. You know, for this inventions award, it was an international competition, and he got 2 special awards. One was from this Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the other from Indonesia. So we got that going, but I think they may not have arrived yet, I think, and because they're just so exhausted. This one is a girl. She was with Junior Master Chef in Hong Kong when she was 11 years old and came up the finalist. Yeah, things like that. Okay. So we're quite stoked with this. We're the only school in this whole exhibition because they've never come across a school where the kids are literally running businesses.
Wow.
400 booths, 400 businesses. And we got this space. It's not even where all the other booths are. We have this whole big space to ourselves. Oh, and one more thing. The Crown Prince of the state where we are operating our business came to the booth, and he spent so much time with our kids, and the only food that he tested was the food from the kids' booth, because he's not supposed to test food at random, and he's going to be the Sultan of the state sometime next year.
Ah.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I just thought I wanted to share and show you all what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. I'm joining meeting. I'm done.
Wow.
Okay, how's everybody?
I'm making notes, Anne. Fantastic. So, okay, it's 7 minutes after, so we can go ahead and begin. I started recording, Anne, as soon as you started to share. So, Anne, why don't you just tell us how you're feeling and what you want to get out of tonight? Are you going to be able to stay with us the whole time, or are you going to be engaged there with stuff?
No, I think I'll be staying in the whole time as much as I can, but I don't think I'll be interrupted, but just in case. But otherwise, I'll be here the entire time. So I'm stoked right now because of the kind of recognition our kids and my teachers are getting in the school. And the other thing is I'm also glad to be here. I think this is 3 weeks in a row. Can't wait to have our discussion. And one last thing is I still have to connect with your daughter, Steve, and John's wife, and I'll get to it this week. Okay?
Okay, wonderful. I sent you an email requesting a link so that my daughter could see who you are and what you're doing at your school, so she would have a good idea who she's talking to here. Because you get the sleeper award of the century, and you are shaking it up, and I wanted to know who she's talking to.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I get to this. Thank you. And so this is around. Oh, Nelson is here. Okay, Nelson, how do you feel, and what do you expect to take away today?
Thank you, Anne. I'm feeling happy to return to this call. I'm grateful to you for continuing to invite me. Because I'm creating a project to support entrepreneurs and businessmen in strategic business management using universal principles and laws, and this is the indicate space, so that with your support to learn for its application. And I'm very happy, and my expectation is to learn more about personal self discipline. Thank you. That is my feel and my expect. Manu, what do you feel and what do you expect?
I feel good. I'm really, really, really excited, and I congratulate Anne. You know, that is the exemplification of the application of what we've been talking about. You know, really from where she is, you know, shining around, inspiring people, inspiring kids to create things that really change the way we do things. And that is really laudable. Thank you, Anne, for sharing. Yes, I'm really, really also excited that we're going to continue discussing on the disciplines. Self-disciplines, we saw last time, are extremely important. And that we're also going to be inspired, in spite of the age, to doing things to influence positively where we are and further. John, how do you feel?
Well, I'm feeling both great and grateful. Another glorious day in paradise, another very enjoyable walk in the park and connection with nature, the ducks, the swans, the big trees, the birds, the water, the flowers. It's just beautiful to do that. And then to come in on Anne's enthusiasm, that was enough to hype me up. So it's lovely to see you so animated and excited, Anne, because it really is critical for our future that our children are inspired and enthusiastic, and that the dumbing us down education, the education that flows from the Prussians, is replaced with something far more relevant to our times and our future. And there are so many kids who are so concerned. I mean, next week in Australia is Mental Health Awareness Week, and we have huge issues with mental health in our community. And when we see, you know, children despairing, feeling that life's not worth living, doing harm to themselves and to others, it's just so concerning. And Bucky, I think, understood all this, and it's replacing the limits of Newtonian physics and the Prussian education with an education that excites and inspires. And the last couple of weeks have been even more relevant than normal for me, because I am a businessman in terms of running a legal practice, and that presents lots of challenges these days. And I've found a lot of worthwhile material in Bucky's work over the last few weeks that I think is relevant to what I'm doing, employing people, training people, dealing with challenging clients. And then, you know, I'm still overall an optimist. I think there's so much that's worthwhile and so much we can do. I'm a Rotarian. I look at Polio Plus. I mean, when that project was first mooted, we were told by the United Nations it couldn't be done. It was not possible to eradicate polio on Earth, and we're almost there. So the experts, the United Nations, said it couldn't be done, but a Rotarian from Australia said, I think we can. You know, we've had people like Bill Gates give us hundreds of millions of dollars because he was inspired. So it is possible. It's possible to achieve virtually anything if we are inspired, if we're enthusiastic, and if we make the right connections. So, yeah. Just hope to be a little bit wiser at the end of the session. So, Susan, you haven't had a say yet, have you? So how are you feeling, and what do you hope to take out of today?
I am truly happy to be with you all. You are my spiritual community, my metaphysical spiritual community, and it's lovely to connect. And I'm so uplifted by what you and your students have been able to achieve. It's, you know, we look at Utopia versus Oblivion, and I think it demands a level of optimism. And it's a reason I avoid the news, darling. There's so many ways to look at things, and I love people that can understand how to apply these principles. I appreciate them, and I'd like to express them. So I'm hoping for more of that. And Nelson, so good to see you. Steve, how are you feeling, and what do you want to get out of today?
Well, like everybody said, I'm to start off this call with Ann sharing 200 businesses in a convention center. Only 4 student businesses are in the 200.
400 businesses, Steve.
400 businesses. Thank you for getting me corrected on that. And 4 student presentations, and one of them 100. Go ahead.
We are one company out of 400 and 10 businesses here of our students. But it's not counted into the 400. It's ACE is one business.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, I'm glad you did. I repeated it just so I could get corrected. And so it's just really exciting because, and that's how I feel about this call is, understanding the design, understanding the topology of principles that are all talked about, and we give them names like, okay, this is an apple and this is an orange, but to really look underneath and see what the definition really is and how does it compare to other things. This conversation is just so sacred and so marvelous for me. So thank each of you for attending, and we'll go ahead and proceed, I think, with our reading and stuff. Before we get started, I want to share kind of where we are here. We're in this book, Oblivion, Design Discipline, Utopia or Oblivion. And Bucky outlined 14 dominant concepts. And these concepts were supposed to, these are the markers that will help govern, that if our race will implement these concepts, it'll determine whether we go to Oblivion or go to Utopia. And we've gone down through, he discussed these dominant concepts here: universe, humanity, children, teleology, reform the environment, general system theory, industrialization, design science, world science industries, ephemeralization, and invisible commonwealth. Wow. Prime design initiative, self-disciplines, comprehensive coordination. And we're about here right now. This is where we've been the last little while. And I think we're about to take on, well, we're going to see, because the actual book here, our previous section that we've been on here is just at 1 page back. We started with 13, comprehensive coordination. And we started that and discussed a little bit about admiralty law, in fact. And I wanted to say that, and Joe isn't with us. He's going to be here a little bit late, but Joe is a civilian contractor for the United States Navy and works there very closely with what's going on in Navy. And I wanted to ask you another question, John, because you discussed admiralty law a little bit, and maybe this is, maybe I should have looked it up, but just as the call was starting tonight, I think that the old case of slavery in the Amistad case in America, with John Adams, I think, was the attorney for that. I think that part of that case, admiralty law had an effect in that case. Did you remember anything about that? Maybe I should go looking that up.
I remember John Adams, and I remember vaguely the case, but I don't know anything about it, and certainly don't know about admiralty law.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll make a note on that and just see if there is something about admiralty law, because Bucky talks about this and talks about admiralty law and talks about the pirates. Okay, so I think any other comments or questions before we read? The idea that we have these 14 dominant discipline concepts, and we're now at the stage where we are getting close to the end of this, but I don't know how close. We're at 37 of 44, so we're getting close to the end of this book, and let's go from there.
Can we read again? Just the beginning of concept 13. Comprehensive
I thought about that, and
I think it was very, very important.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll start again. I thought about that, and you've reaffirmed it. So let's do it. John, you want to start with concept?
Sure.
13?
Concept 13, comprehensive coordination, effected through discovery of nature's omnirational, vectorial, quantum arithmetical, geometrical, topological, equilibriously and dynamically coordinate intertransformative system, i.e. synergetics, energetic, synergetic, vectorial, and topological geometry, Self-development involved my re-establishing the self-disciplining in comprehensively, which I originally received at the US Naval Academy, which training countered the almost complete trend to specialization in other universities and colleges. At the Naval Academy, the brightest were selected for the most comprehensive training. At the other colleges and universities, the brightest were corralled and shunted into sharp specialization. It was evident to me specialization had been developed by the great master world pirates as a means of dividing up all the bright ones who might otherwise aspire to displace the great ones, and thus conquering society by keeping all powerful individuals compartmented by their...
Oh, sorry. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes over here, doing what I can to be the host. There we go. Thank you, John.
Specialization, as the great master pirates reserve for themselves all the integrating of the wealth-producing potentials, accruing to the specialists' multitude of special detail accomplishments. I call them the great pirates, for they were the masters of the world commerce, which took place on the oceans covering 3/4 of Earth. 3 miles offshore, all man-made laws were nil. Only the laws of physical universe were operative. The great masters were therefore inherently outlaws. Only the chief naval officers who maintained the master pirates' high seas world-around fleets needed to have the comprehensive capability to be the master pirates' right-hand men.
Let's pause right
Almost.
there. Do you want to pause right there for a second?
Yep.
Okay. And I mentioned this before the call, but the movie Amsterdam deals with these pirates and the rise of fascism. Mussolini and other guys, interestingly enough, that was very interesting to me that that I went and saw that movie this weekend. It just opened in the US. I wanted to bring up this little, go ahead. Does somebody else have a comment there?
Well, I
Yes.
love the term outlaws because what instead of like thinking of bandits, it's like those people are outside the law.
Yes.
One thing that is coming out very, very important here. Look at how he defines synergetics. Can you go back there?
Okay, yeah, you're like me. I wanted to get back up to the top of that, and I've got to deal with my what's going on here. Hang on, I got to deal with my Zoom interface here is giving me a problem. Okay, good. Let's go back up because I wanted to review this too. I think you were talking about this step right here.
Even before, look at there. What is in italics?
What is what?
In
In
italics.
italics.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to look at. Is this wording
Yeah.
right here?
Okay, but look at how it extensively defines synergetics.
Yes, yes.
How many elements do you have there?
4.
Exactly. It is a minimum system holding. Because we always define synergetics as a whole being more than the sum of a part. Well, that's one way of seeing it. But here it gives an extensive definition of what synergetics is. Energetics is synergetic, it is vectorial, and it is topological geometry.
Yeah, and this is honestly this sentence. It is a fragment sentence, like Susan pointed out. These italic parts aren't real sentences; they're like topical designators for what he's about to describe, and I'm tempted to do this just because for me it means a lot. But so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Because I can, and I hope that you gain something from it as well. But if we open this up, if I take this sentence down here, he's talking about one intertransformative system. And what is the intertransformative system? Let's hope that it pastes in there. There, it pasted in. All right. And then let's make it a little bit bigger, and then let's make it a little bit bigger. So effected through discovery of nature's what? Of nature's
rush.
intertransformative system. And these words all describe, if you were to diagram the sentence, these words all describe the system. And then he further describes the system, as Manu pointed out, by saying, i.e. synergetics. And what is synergetics? It's these four things, which, by the way, is very tetrahedral, right? And so here's affected through discovery of nature's intertransformative system. And then how does he describe this intertransformative system? Just to put it in groups of twos, he omnirational, which means, I think, what does omnirational mean?
That wherever you go in whatever
omnirational is only in proportion in all directions.
Yeah.
That's what omnirational is.
And radiate, to me, this is
spherical.
Yeah, but it says every individual.
Yeah.
You're rational, I'm rational, Susan's, all of us are rational, and we all give our input.
No, we aren't. Nature is.
Nature, yes.
Oh,
We
that's
aren't
that's a
necessarily
big distinction.
But,
That's a
but we are
yeah.
nature. We are nature.
Nature is omnirational. We aren't necessarily.
Well, wait
We
a
are
minute. It's
part
not
of
nature.
nature.
It's not
No,
nature. It's the system. It's the system is what is how this is why this hang on, I got to come back here and grab this.
It is nature's system, kiddo.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it is nature's system.
Nature's system.
Yep.
That's exactly right, but it's not nature, it's nature's system. He's describing the system,
Yes.
okay? And it's omnirational. To me, that means my reason and your reason, all of our reasons count. Whatever we're thinking, we put it in the pot.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I disagree.
So,
I
Steve,
think anything you go
Sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
While you're lining the words up, the words dynamically coordinate, I think, are adjectives describing intertransformative system.
Right.
So the words dynamically coordinate go in front of intertransformative system.
Okay, then let's go one step further and let's take intertransformative out and put it down here. Because these
And
are
system
all,
as well. You got to put system.
the system is the noun.
Intertransformative.
A system is the noun. Intertransformative is an adjective. These are all adjectives. Omnirational, vectorial, quantum arithmetical, geometrical, topologically. These are all adjectives. That
But intertransformative goes after coordinate. That's,
okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. I think that's, if I were designing this sentence, I could even diagram that out. But now we have something. Dynamically coordinate intertransformative. So he wants to use this as one word. See, a normal guy, if I were an English guy, I would have built this into one word. Or if I were a German guy, I would have just put them all together. But he put spaces in between them. So that's fine. So we're talking about here nature's system. And it's a geometry. It's a geometry.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind. He's talking about the design of the universe.
Yeah,
It
and
is
Steve,
an
you
energetic-
are a node. You
What?
are a point, you are a node, but it's the entire system is omnirational.
Well,
Yeah,
the
that's
node-
right. The node isn't rational. That's where it's rational to act in accordance with nature,
Okay,
but
I'm-
it's not.
But hang on, man is the only part of nature that can interfere with nature and damage nature.
That's right. That's acting against it, which means
Yes.
it's not rational.
We're the only part of nature that has the capacity to destroy nature.
That's correct. So that which means that if we don't act, if we don't act rationally, we destroy it.
Yep.
So are
Which
you
means
telling
that
go ahead.
which means that all our actions can't be rational.
Exactly.
So are you telling me a volcano can't destroy nature? Are you telling
No,
me
no,
that
no,
an
the
asteroid floating?
It's
volcano-
part of nature, though.
Well, that's
Volcano is
right. But,
part of nature. It only acts in accordance with nature's design. The same as a hurricane, a storm, it's all a part of nature's design. We can interfere with that. None of that. A volcano, a storm, an earthquake is acting within nature's design.
okay.
Yeah,
But
and it's not acting with intention either.
That's right.
Yep. But I think it also takes into consideration that we are nature. We are part of nature, and therefore, if we are able to destroy whatever we are destroying, then it is also part of nature that we can destroy. Because
But
I
in fact,
remember,
I think it's Descartes, isn't it? Who was a contemporary of Newton's, And Descartes wrote something like, man can torture nature's secrets from her. It was with a Cartesian philosophy and Newtonian physics that for the first time, mankind saw themselves as separate to and superior to and in control of nature, which was the beginning of our problems, because we aren't. The indigenous peoples realized we were a part of nature. If you go to an indigenous people, they will respect nature and act with respect for nature. Newtonian physics, Cartesian philosophy marked the beginning of this belief in human beings that we were superior to and could control nature.
John, I think I'm coming from Bucky's space, because Bucky says that nature, if it is nature, nature allows it to happen. If it's not in nature, nature will not allow it to happen. So if we destroy, we happen. So we are nature, and the fact that nature is allowing, the fact that we can do it, it means it can happen, and it is nature. I really like Bucky's definition of nature, because it puts everything that we're doing into context. And it is on us if we destroy our own species on this earth, but the rest of nature will carry on happily without us. It doesn't matter whether we're here or not, you know. So I feel strongly that, you know, that we have to look at the definition of nature according to Bucky. Yeah. Yes, I'm done. Yeah.
It should be noted too that there are, you know, that there is a philosophy out there that in various countries actually, that it's necessary to conquer nature in order to survive. So I mean, you know, there are varying, what I'm just saying is that what Bucky's saying and what some other people do say, you know, are completely contradictory to one another. But go ahead.
Sorry, Joe. I think
That's
most
okay.
of them have never heard of Bucky's philosophy is one. I mean,
No.
the direction that Bucky has come from. And also, I think the term nature can, if you check in the dictionary, I think you have tons of definition for nature. And Bucky's definition is probably not in there. But I think I feel like when he said that, it just made everything clear, you know, that nature allows it to happen. Yeah, you know, that's probably where I'm coming from, because the rest are just words, you know. It doesn't matter what we define it as. And the dictionary has plenty of definitions for nature. Even the word animal, there are four or five different definitions of animals. Some of them include human beings, some of them no, and so it's up to us in the context that we're using it in. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm complete there.
Any other comments there? Okay. I'm gonna let you guys get away with omni-rational is not you and me. I'm gonna go with Susan's idea of a node here. I'm writing a white paper right now on thinkable sets based on Synergetics 501. I'm doing a little paper on that, and maybe I'll bring that up and we can talk about it, and we'll come back to omni-rational. But Manu put a really good definition in the chat. Let me see. And maybe Manu, you should read your definitions that you put in. Where did the chat go? Here it is right here. And then I can't share a chat, but what I can do is I can take a piece of paper and I can put the chat in the, oh geez.
Do you want me to read?
Yeah, you can read it. Here it is.
Yes, while we are discussing, I just went, yeah. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's excellent.
It just came, I Google, you know, many places to try to find. And there is that, I think it's from a Norwegian institute that I got this. And
oh, I thought you wrote this.
No, I didn't write it, man. I'm not that smart.
Yes, you are. And you should have. Yes, you are, and you should have taken credit.
Okay, and see, to me, this doesn't contradict with my point either. But I think these are really good points. So I'm glad you put them in there, and it was important to have them consciously discussed on the call today. Any other comments or questions about that? I just want to bring up that synergetics is a type of geometry. I just listened to a guy, and I was going to send this to Susan. His guy's name is David Page, I think, and he started studying DNA and came out with a 2.5-hour thing in 2014. And I listened to that one, which he started talking about the sexual deviation in genetic code, that females and males are really different, and that when people study genetic diseases, they're not looking at gender, and they need to look at gender. He argued in 2014, and then I just found one from him 2 years ago, David Page, who says that the same condition in a man, like Alzheimer's, and he didn't refer specifically to Alzheimer's, but he talked about different genetic conditions. So I'll use Alzheimer's as a metaphor, that there could be different causes for Alzheimer's in males than there are in females. That they could actually be completely different diseases. They just manifest the same way. The guy's name is David Page, and I found it to be pretty exciting. But he talks about morphogenesis, and he talks about different ways that genes connect. And he talks about how somebody built a morphogenic chart and predicted different species. And some of those were discovered later on, just like somebody created an elemental chart and then the elements were discovered and some aren't yet discovered. He did the same thing with genetic code. And he's really arguing a geometry that exists out there, that when genetic code changes and alters, it sticks to a geometry. And it reminded me of, have you guys seen the thing where they take iron filings and they put them on a metal sheet and then they vibrate that sheet at different frequencies and the designs change?
Frequency, music and geometry are related, yes.
Yeah, this guy's talking about, and one of the things I listened to was all about, this was another guy that came up on the thread, it was called Vibrational Medicine. And he's talking about a 40 hertz cycle that does amazing things to people with Alzheimer's. If they sit in a 40 hertz cycle for like 10 minutes a day, 3 days a week or something, or 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, nominal, just a superficial amount of exposure to the 40 hertz vibration did amazing things for healing them. So, but
it's synonymous with gamma wave
yes, frequency
in brains.
That's exactly right. 40 hertz was gamma. He said that in the thing. So there's this geometry of vibration. And Bucky is alluding to this. We have energetic geometry. This is a chapter in the little paper I'm writing. Most people, I say, okay, what is energy? People, a good analogy for people to say, well, energy is kind of like atmosphere. If you take a room, the atmosphere is everywhere, but we don't see how it's active, and it's in precession, and there's a torus going on, and it's turning inside of itself and outside of itself. Most people don't see energetic geometry, and that's one of the chapters in the paper I'm writing. So I just thought that and I'm so glad, Manu, that you wanted to go back and really look at this introduction, because he's saying so much in here. Okay, I've kind of run out. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I put something in the.
What is an
chat
umbrella?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well,
Yeah,
you tell me.
Yeah, you said, what is an umbrella? So do you want to explain that, Manu?
Well, an umbrella has many, many uses. Some people might explain it as some spokes that are centered somewhere with a membrane. Some people can call it a parachute. Some people can call it something else. And the only way to comprehensively describe that is through spherical geometry.
The only way to describe it is how?
Through geometry,
spherical
geometry.
Oh,
to be able to take into account all of those functions. It's impossible to measure synergistic effect radiatively by dividing on it. It's impossible. You must divide, and then you must put together again. Let me repeat this. It is
Why do you-
impossible to measure the synergistic effect through radiation only. That is through division, through parts. You have to put those parts together in order to measure something and see that that thing is more than the sum of those individual parts.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Actually,
So
reminds me of the
therefore,
Dao De Ching.
the only method to comprehend that is through a spherical geometric approach, is to approach it conceptually from many, many directions. And that calls on what we call the comprehensivity of the accounting.
Yeah.
How far can I go into taking into account how many special cases do I need to start generalizing?
Comments, questions? I want to comment that Joe turned me on to a guy named Russell Ackroff, who consulted the Navy. And he was a big one on systems and design. And in one of his talks, he said, what is a car? Well, what science does is they take the car and they take it all apart. And so now in the room, we have a car. We have a wheel and a drive chain and a seat and an engine and a steering wheel and a windshield. But that's not a car. There's nothing about a steering wheel that gets you from one place to another. There's nothing about a wheel that gets you from one place to another like a car. And so what we have is we have science breaking everything down to parts that aren't applicable. And until I look at the whole system, and this was what synergetics was, and Ackroff was born in 1919. So he and Bucky were probably, what year was Bucky born?
1897, 1897, was it?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was born at, my grandmother was born the year he was born, which is very interesting. And so anyway, the idea of looking at a synergetic system and something that exists that's not the sum of its parts. There's something more than that sum. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting example that he provided. It was also, he even said even the system within the system. So if you broke apart multiple cars and took the best part of each car and put it together, that wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
So that if you took, and so that's the idea of, having a synergetic system. So if you took a Mercedes engine and a Rolls-Royce, frame,
and these are the best parts of a car,
the best parts of the best car, and put it all together, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that it's an interesting concept because that's systems, that's synergetics to a certain degree.
Yeah, the system that works the best might not have the best engine.
Well, I mean, they just don't fit together. They don't work together.
Right. They don't work.
Yeah.
Cool. Comments, questions? So
where does the scientific approach come from?
Well, Descartes.
Francis Bacon.
To disprove, you only need one case. To disprove a whole theory, you need one case. To prove a theory, you need to prove that it works in all cases. Why that approach? Because the general theory of something tries to embrace synergistically. And in synergy, if only one element is out of place, the whole system doesn't work the way it was supposed. Imagine that you are drilling an oil well, right? Right? Mm-hmm. And there is what you call, in an oil in the column, there's what you call a blowout preventer. It's very expensive and very important. And there is some push of pressure that comes up. Instead of bringing the shear ramps to do this, it opens. What happens? There's a blowout, and that's dangerous. You are at sea, and your platform or your rig is just going to go to pieces. So the system needs to work exactly when the conditions that require that working are present. And that comes from design. That comes from thinking of a case. That doesn't happen, but that could happen.
Comments, questions? I just want to put in one more example of a really cool system that works, the Rolling Stones. If you take Keith Richards and stick him in another band, he sucks. But you put Keith Richards together with
Mick Jagger.
Yeah, Mick Jagger, you know, of course, Charlie Watts isn't there anymore, but there's a perfect example of how synergetic things can be. A system works uniquely. Any other comments or questions? There's a little something on Akerhof I stuck in the thing. What I didn't stick was the link. I'll put that in the chat right now. So that's the link to Akerhof. And any if you want to spend time listening to any of this guy's videos, Joe sent me like 1 or 2 or something. And I listened to about 8 of them. The guy's amazing. He has like a 6-part talk that he gave to the Navy on systems, and it's just every word is really good.
He really is a deep thinker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very, very deep.
So we just took all that time to break down this this opening, the introduction to the chapter. And I hope that was as helpful to you as it is to me. And I promise you, I'm going to come back with this node thing and make some points about it. Okay, good. Any other comments or questions on this page? Shall we move to the next page again? Shall we move to
Yes.
continue reading? All right, let's go. All right, there we go. And thank you, John, for letting us interrupt the reading.
Oh, no, this is an interactive experience.
Cool. So if you want to start, we're ready to go. We're, I think, at foremost.
We're just after that, aren't we? So we're at the paragraph that begins, foremost of my personal disciplines.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Foremost of my personal disciplines is that I must never attempt to sell one of my ideas to others. I must confine myself entirely to the production and testing of the invention. I find that there are always capable people who learn of my activity and ask, what is it that you are doing? When people ask me either for an explanation or my services, I give them the best I have. I, therefore, have no promotion and allow no promotion by any associates. I have learned that when you ask people to listen to you, they become defensive. On the other hand, when they ask you to speak to them, and especially when they pay a high fee, they are highly receptive. That's very true.
Amazing how that happens.
I have learned that every consideration of my inventions and developments by others has occurred in emergencies. In effect, my work emerges through emergencies.
Yeah.
The US Marine Corps, the US Navy, the Air Force, the Department of State, the Ford Motor Company have all come to me in emergencies when everything else they had failed. I represented the last and most remotely possible solution to their problem. Because I have disciplined myself and have put into operation all the strategies listed under my 14 topics, I have always had something awaiting their emergencies, which I knew by experimental work would love their problems and do it under the circumstances which had created the dilemma. I have never had agents seeking to sell my ideas or my products. I have no agent seeking to sell my lecturing capability, and I have no agents trying to sell my patents. Because I only go where I am asked to go, I am able to use the geographic and frequency of travels patterning as a trend indicator. I often gain important previews of coming events through study of my own trend patterning. Because I live in the frontiers, what happens to me usually happens to others later on. I have therefore powerful trend prognosticating experiences.
Can we stop there a little bit?
What's
What
that?
does Kelly? Yes.
What?
I just wanted to bring a comment here. I'm being thinking of Kelly. What does he usually say about the boundary?
That's
What's
where
the first
everything
question
changes.
starts. I thought
Where
it was-
does change happen?
At the boundary.
Hmm.
Yes. John, you can continue. I just wanted, sorry to interrupt you for that
Yep.
little
It is
diversion.
part
Yeah.
of my personal discipline to continue to try making obsolete all the inventions which I have previously developed by designing ever more effective
Hang on.
and efficient devices for solving the complex and comprehensive world problems. I consider my patents of no consequence except for their protection of my initiative. I do not process anything. I am not a professional. My own description of my own work with university students is the attempt to discipline myself to be an effective explorer in the realm of mastery of principles of comprehensive anticipatory design science.
Let's pause right there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
anticipatory design science.
It's comprehensive is an important part of that as well.
Yeah,
So it's comprehensive anticipatory design science.
yeah.
You also say that
Is there such thing?
tinkering is essential.
What's essential?
Tinkering
Tinkering.
Hmm.
Yeah,
is always tweaking here and there, even when it looks like it's working perfectly.
Hmm.
Trying to improve. He says he's on a mission to make it obsolete.
Cool. We ready?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily, unless somebody can explain comprehensive anticipatory design science.
This is what Bucky, I think he formed that expression. He coined that expression to describe what he did.
Yeah, I've seen it, and comprehensivism is something that has always kind of escaped me to a certain degree.
Hmm.
But listen, Joe, to me it's quite clear. Maybe I'm wrong here.
No,
What does
no.
comprehensive mean?
All
We
the
already
great-
discussed
all
it
the
means
great-
geometrical. Geometrical. What does anticipatory imply?
Going where
Teleology.
nobody's been before.
Teleology, yes. And design, it is you are the center of it and doing something. You're working towards. Comprehensive, anticipatory, what is the other word?
Design science.
Yes.
So you're going to say comprehensive is geometrical.
Yes, that's what we discussed. Comprehensive, that the comprehensive consideration is only through geometrical, spherical geometry.
This goes back to universe, macro and micro.
Mhm.
He says comprehensive, he means universal in that context.
Excellent, yes,
Macro, micro.
yes. Always,
I see a big giant torus.
yeah. You have to elevate yourself from where you are as high as possible to see what Suzanne usually call, what do you call that? The something horizon.
Event horizon.
Event
Event
horizon.
horizon.
Event horizons, yes. As wide as possible. Maybe the lab is too long for your living, but it's a possibility.
That's all I need to know if it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, I think it takes somebody dedicated and it's something you approach. I don't know that it's ever anything we conquer. While we're incarnate, our feet are still made of clay.
That's the pursuit of veritas. We've been talking about it. What is it? The scientific method is all the time in pursuit of veritas. It's open, it is open to change, to new proofs, to disproving what is considered to be truth up to that time.
And if Bucky's on the edge, on the fringe, he's in the almost irrelevancy.
Yes.
In my white paper on
That's right.
these nodes I'm going to be presenting, if you guys are interested, I have to go back to these circles of irrelevancy.
Oh,
They're
I'm
not,
always going back to those.
they are not circles of relevancy. They are circles of irrelevance,
Irrelevancy. Yes.
which means that it's like elimination. And so let me get this a little bit bigger, but this is also convex and concave. Most people see themselves in the center looking out in a sphere, but Bucky sees the universe this way, and the Hugh being is in this circle here, and the convex is coming at us from almost relevant, tantalizingly, what does he call it? And let me go over here. I got to move this slide over. There we go. Tantalizingly almost relevant. Tantalizingly almost relevant. So here's concave, and here's convex, and here's the person in here developing a thinkable set. And then in here is within this that's so micro, it's irrelevant. It's so micro, we can't perceive it. It's not perceivable. And out here, go ahead.
I think I can see that apprehension happens right there at the
Right.
tantalizingly almost relevant.
Right.
It's still irrelevant for most people.
Apprehension happens at the center. Let's just clear it. The
Doesn't
question happens from where you are.
Doesn't comprehension happen from the center, and apprehension is on the fringe?
No, you fly.
I have to apprehend it in order to comprehend it.
Yeah, apprehension is question. So apprehension, in my understanding, is the question.
It's grasping, apprehending. Well, to apprehend somebody is to grasp them, to take them in possession, and then to comprehend somebody is it's
apprehension can
now
also
we're into
mean
Martian. We're talking grokking.
apprehension can also mean considering.
Yeah,
It can be. It's a whole that spectrum. I'm not saying what you're saying is not right, but it can also, when you can say, "I'm apprehensive of something," it means that you have questions about something.
see,
Especially implying what it is. And then it could be something of potential importance. That's another way of saying apprehensive.
that's why it's tantalizingly almost relevant.
Yeah.
This
So
is
I say, if I'm a caveman, I'm out and I see the moon, say, what is this? What is it? And I see birds. I'm used to birds during day from my cave, seeing them flying. I say, what if I could fly? What if I could fly? So you've seen the moon. It is something that you don't know. Could I fly to see what it is exactly? And then you start asking a bunch of stupid questions, a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then you bounce on something that allows you to progress. But before that, you needed to have seen the moon, to have imagined that the moon could be something even, to have been conscious that there is something that exists there. That is not just something that, I mean, you're not, if you are walking, let's just imagine the process of you walking. You're not conscious of, in the pure term, of a small rock that is on the floor. Doesn't attract your attention. It is there, it is part of the environment, but to be truly specific, you are not conscious of it at the time of passing. If there's a big rock in front of you, you'll be conscious of it. So consciousness is in the light of colliding with progress or aspiring to progress.
Okay, shall we, everybody complete on that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, let's continue.
I assumed in 1917 that nature did not have separate departments for chemistry, mathematics, physics, biology, history, etc. I decided nature had only one department and only one arithmetical angle and frequency modulating and coordinating system. I'm quite confident that I have discovered an importantly large area of the arithmetical, geometrical, topological, crystallographic, and energetically vectoral coordinate system employed by nature itself. It is a triangular and tetrahedral system. It uses 60-degree coordination instead of 90-degree coordination. It permits kindergarten modeling of the fourth and fifth arithmetical powers, i.e. fourth and fifth dimensional aggregations of points and spheres, etc., in an entirely rational coordinate system. I have explored the fundamental logic of the structural mathematics strategies of nature, which always employ the 6 sets of degrees of freedoms and most economical actions.
Let's pause there.
I would like to hear what Dan has to say about this. Or I guess I shouldn't have said that. I mean, but
So one of the things that pops out at me is that we walk around, if we're thinking in squares and cubes, then we think about 90-degree coordination. But if we're thinking in spheres and toroids, we think in 60-degree coordination.
Right. And I personally believe that 60-degree coordination gives a 4-dimensional approach to 3D reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you can collapse 1 dimension to perceive 3 dimensions. You have to be in that 4th dimension to do it.
Right. If I take a cube and there's no way to add, I have an x-axis and a y-axis and a z-axis, and they're at 90 degrees. My brain cannot comprehend putting another axis at 90 degrees to all of those. But if I shrink those angles down to 60 degrees, I get a tetrahedron instead of a cube.
And you can start seeing.
And talk more. Tetrahedron, first derivation, octahedron. Further derivation, icosahedron, rhombic dodecahedron, and further vector
Equilibrium. Yep.
4.
wow.
Yeah.
In 4 derivations, you describe the whole system in all its possibility, from the vector equilibrium to the tetrahedron.
I notice a new word in this paragraph that is not in the introductory italic type.
Crystallographic.
Yes,
Yeah.
crystallographic.
Yeah.
Which
Yes,
is
that's
very,
right. New one,
yeah,
yep.
it's very fractal. Crystals are fractals, and the tetrahedron is fractal. Inside of a tetrahedron is a tetrahedron, and outside of a tetrahedron is a tetrahedron. They are fractals. This is the micro.
It is effectively, Steve, because Becky maintained that there is no solid.
Right.
All is in the degree of motion.
You see, and Einstein said it too. And this comes back to the very beginning when I said nobody understands energy. Bucky has introduced me to an understanding of energy. Einstein said it. Everything is energy. He said everything is energy, but everybody's banged their heads against cubes and 90 degrees. Yeah. And Bucky said, let's go to 60 degrees and let's see what else we can see in the universe when we move to that 60-degree angle.
And that's what Nassim Haramein does. And he's gone back and tweaked these other equations and theories.
And there's a neato, I think it's Amazon. Is it Amazon? I think Amazon has a series right now, a Gaia series on Nassim. And they're running a series of like 5 or 6 shows.
On Gaia, the Gaia theory?
No, it's the Gaia.com, the channel.
Oh, all right.
They did a series with Nassim, and Amazon has got the rights to that first season. So if you guys want to know this Nassim Haramein, and this guy is amazing. With he allowed himself to dream about what went on, and he saw tetrahedron, wow, he blows me away. So I wish I could.
I've seen some of his videos.
Next time I go on a trip, maybe you'll have to come with me.
That would be so
Yeah.
wonderful. I would be in heaven if I did that.
It's some pretty fun times.
I imagine going through a pyramid with Nassim Haramein. I can't, it blows my mind.
Even better is the talk story on we had a boat on the Nile, and the top of the boat had a swimming pool and like fake grass. And we would all come out after dinner onto the top deck with our blankets and talk story late into the night while cruising the Nile.
Wow. And
Wow, that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Egyptian mythology is the basis of Christian and Hebrew and Islamic. It is the basis of all of our traditions. Wow.
Yeah, ISIS and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so we had the isle, the whole island with where the Isis temple now resides from like 10 p.m. till 4 a.m.
Wow.
Wow.
But you know that is from Nubia, right? All of those things.
Right. Yes,
You know
and
that,
they
right?
did. The Egyptians themselves, the new government, when they came in after the war, they took it apart stone by stone and moved it to a different island where it wouldn't have the same resonance, where it would be less powerful.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Beautiful prose.
When he says it permits kindergarten modeling, he's talking about his system. It uses 90 degrees instead of 60 degrees instead of 90 degrees, and thus his system permits kindergarten modeling of the fourth and fifth aromatical powers.
And
So-
Manu just did it for you. He took kindergartners can build a tetrahedron. Kindergartners can appreciate an octahedron. You could show them the icosahedron. Kindergartners could, they could play with these shapes.
I have grandkids and I got them all magnets. They all have magnet sets. They all know what a tetrahedron is. They all know what an octahedron is. And they all know that there's an octahedron in that pyramid, and a double tetrahedron has an octahedron in it. They all know that. So, wow, that's exciting. Thank you, Bucky.
It's interesting that, how he had decided only one department, or what is it? Basically that he combined everything. It sounds like he's almost talking about, I don't want to say a liberal arts education, but something like it.
So Joe, you weren't here at the very beginning of the call, and I think you and I had talked about the idea of going back and looking at grunge, or I think what he's hitting at is exactly what he said earlier in this chapter, was that the powers took the bright people and they divided them, especially.
Yes.
Compartmentalize them.
Compartmentalize them, and then yes, essentially it's the divide and conquer strategy.
Yeah, it made them specialists, not generalists, so they didn't understand what was happening around them, just their own specialty.
It's how you
That's
can
part of the
control a
problem of medicine
population.
too.
Yeah, so that's what he's saying, is that if you're going to be a comprehensive design science, means you have to be across biology, chemistry, physics. I feel really fortunate some days, because what I'm doing, I'm supposed to have a grounding in a lot of that stuff and see it all play.
And Susan, that cannot be done as cool as it's organized today.
No, that's what I was about to say. You have to.
It needs time. Therefore, you need to have personally the will, and you need to have the stamina and grit to reach.
I need to have really, really good friends who are willing to take my boundaries and stretch them.
That's right. And I don't know. I mean, there's something being launched called Trivium University. We'll see what happens with that.
Is that
okay? Is that Peter? What's the name of this guy? The English guy?
No. This is being done
by the guy who writes history.
No. Just by a guy somebody that Steve and I know. By Mark Stallman and Sri Khan.
It would be interesting to have the idea of being able to have that more of a comprehensive worldview at a younger age.
Yeah.
And I know that it's probably possible because each next generation their rate of acceleration has accelerated. But for me, it was probably into my, early 40s to really start. I had a sense of it before, you have that longing, you have that intuition, that apprehension, but even just to find Bucky was,
to me, the importance of early education is that of inspiration to curiosity and to the love of learning and trying. If I could summarize that, because once, as we say, we are all born with the operating system already in. If you give that tilt and that angle of veering enough, it becomes self-seeking. The being is going to be attracted to a group like this. It's going to be, when it sees something that is inspiring, it's going to be attracted to that, and it's going to grow, 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 and start influencing. As Bucky said, I don't influence by inviting people to listen to me or by forcing them to listen to them. I influence by doing, and I keep on doing. And those who can see will ask questions and will be more interested. And that's why he also say that it's only that those that are ready to pay high, that will pay attention to what you say.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you pay high. We have an inherent way of calibrating. If something, there's no price to it, it's cheap. You say for free in the mentality of many people has been connotated with cheap, with low value. Right?
Yes.
So you have to have gone through what is not free to see the value of actually the real free that is given, that is there naturally. You understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes.
Teach me to fish. Don't give me a fish.
Yes.
Well, let's continue.
Warning, I'd
Let's
like
continue.
to share with you. It's the
Hang on,
fourth-
sorry. I thought I had gotten that under control. Manu put a thing in there about the octahedron and basically it's a jitterbug conversation. So I'm just gonna, for the sake of the history and everything, I'm gonna stick the link to the jitterbug underneath this so that if future generations are reviewing this chat, they'll have a link to the tetrahedron, octahedron, rhombic, dodecahedron and vector equilibrium, which is the jitterbug. That's a whole process with
Come
that.
to think of it, there actually isn't a single email that I've written over the last few months without the help of Grammarly. Grammarly is a digital writing assistant.
Guys,
Grammarly,
What's
guys,
going on?
I'm so sorry I have to go because we have some government agencies here talking to our students. I'm going to help him.
Very
Are you,
good.
Thank you,
do you have
Ali. You're
to-
so inspiring.
have to-
You are very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Handing the phone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Bucky in action.
Let me video record the thing.
I think she's maybe
Should I
forgotten.
bump her out? Should I bump her out?
I don't know. Oh, there you go.
Okay, there
She's
she
gone.
finally did.
All right. Well, it's interesting. Well, I don't know if she was interfering with them, the government talking to her, or actually encouraging
No,
it.
the government is coming, and then she wanted to be there because they'll probably be asking questions. Remember that the only company that is there that is educational research is that
Okay.
of us.
And I pulled out that paragraph, Joe, and I'm going to send it to Anne and ask her if she wants to comment about it next week.
She definitely should comment on that.
Yeah, very, very cool. Good suggestion. Okay, let's continue, I think.
Yep.
All righty, good. So I think we're right here. I've been able to.
Yeah, that I have been able to develop structures. That's where we're up to.
Good, thank you.
I have been able to develop structures which are shown by engineering publications and scientific papers to be able to cover very large, clear span spaces more economically than any known rectilinear or other shaped systems, as for instance, 1,000-fold more economically weight-wise than accomplished in the Dome of St. Peter's in Rome, and 30 times more efficiently than this is to be accomplished than, I think that should be than is to be, but anyway, accomplished by reinforced concrete or by its 10 times more complex conventional steel trusses. Scientists operating in the area of viruses and many places elsewhere in the area of nature have found nature employing the mathematics and the structural stratagems which have come by study from the mathematics which I have discovered, most probably to be part of nature's own coordinate system. I find that there are only two possible covariables operative in all design and universe. They are modifications of angle and frequency. Employing the coordinates employed by nature, which as yet are unemployed in any of the educational institutes of the earth and are as yet unemployed by any professional engineer or architect other than myself, and employing the contents of my 14 concepts, I find I am able to effect ephemeralization in so important a degree as to make it clear that when and if world society adopts and employs my 14 strategies, mankind will always have more than adequate of everything with which to effect his physical success and intellectual satisfaction. Wow.
Get back to the previous paragraph. Yeah?
He's talking
that last one
Star
again.
Trek.
I find
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Unity
Employ-
is plural at the minimum of
2.
how many variable? Co-variable.
Yeah.
He didn't say variable. Co-variable. That is always coexisting. To describe only 2. Frequency modulation and angle modulation. Let's just put it. Angular modulation and frequency modulation.
Modification.
That's all you need.
Yep. Yep.
You know the radius, you know the angle, you know the length of the arc.
You need the last little bit of that, Steve. Yep.
You're going to share that, Steve, aren't you?
I'm going to go grab that. I'm going to share it with Ann for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to post it in the chat or do whatever. What do you want me to do?
You could send it, if you could send it to everyone, I would appreciate it.
All right. I'll send it to everyone. Beautiful. Any other? I keep coming back to this 60-degree thing.
Yep.
If in actuality, if I'm getting this right, Bucky's saying that he talks about tetrahedra in terms of 60-degree angles so that the brain can comprehend it. I think that if I take that tetrahedron and say, okay, this is the actual shape, and I move it out to 90 degrees, so it's actually 90 degrees on top of 90 degrees on top of 90 degrees on top of 90 degrees, which my brain can't comprehend, that's reality. But by moving it to 60 degrees, blam, I can conceptualize it. But I can't conceptualize it at 90 degrees to 90 degrees to 90 degrees to 90 degrees. I can conceptualize 3 90 degrees, but I can't conceptualize the 4th one unless I move to a 60-degree angle, and then grammar school kids can do it. Isn't that what he said? Kindergarten understanding.
Kindergarten.
That's right. Wow. That's just going through my brain. I'm in freaking kindergarten. I'm maybe in kindergarten.
But Steve, is it part of our little wobble between the 4 dimensions we're really in versus the 3 dimensions that we perceive to see those as 90 degrees? Like, I'm not sure that the 90 degree is necessary. I don't think that it's a higher truth.
No.
Exactly. If I take a stick and I put it into water, the illusion is that stick bends.
Yeah.
Mm.
based on the water. So am I really seeing 90 degrees, or is this just a freaking illusion that my brain creates so I can walk around?
The question is, which one is prime?
I
Okay.
think
Is this
60 is
60 degree
prime.
or 90 degree? 90 degree is from 60 degree first.
Yeah.
Then
So
90
maybe,
degree associated with what? With what? Precession.
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
yes.
So really, I'm looking at 60 degrees, but my brain is warping it at 90 degrees so they can comprehend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
good.
you let yourself being prisoner of the boundary. That's why you use 90 degrees. Let me repeat it. You allow yourself, or you were taught to be prisoner of the boundary.
I
You are
totally
at the
agree with that.
boundary and you think that that is the center. You have to go to the boundary and come back.
Yeah.
In order to understand.
I totally
Those-
agree. We're hypnotized as kids to see the world a certain way. And then once I can survive, then it's good for me to open up, use my third eye, and see reality the way that it really is. I need my two eyes to stay alive, but
Mm.
most human beings I know are addicted to staying alive. They're not willing to open up that third eye. I've been addicted to staying alive.
Mm.
Until I
Steve,
woke up.
are they alive?
A good question.
Cool. Well, listen, we're at 10:20. We have a whole nother section to start. Maybe this is just a good time. Any other comments or questions before we wrap it up? It seems like we
Yeah.
actually covered a whole topic tonight, and it was a big one. So
Mm.
congratulations to us. Any
Ma-
other comments? Go ahead, Nelson.
Yes, Manu, 90 degrees is precessions and 60 degrees is what? I don't understand.
No, I say the first, when you are apprehending and you try to put a system of thought, is spherical. And 60 degree is the most evident, because 60 degree times 3 equally to a triangle, right? And the
Okay.
triangle and all these things. Now,
Okay, thank you.
a 90 degree is mostly associated with the system in motion and the effect of the system into precession.
Okay. Mhm. Yes, thank you, Manu. Mhm.
Okay.
I just thought of a thought here. And oh, there it is. So I'm just going to try something here. 360 divided by 90. Yeah, 4. Interesting. 360 degrees, which is the Greek way of looking at the universe, right? 360 degrees. That's how all of navigation goes. Is divisible. 90 divides into 4 parts, but 60 divides it into 6 parts.
I was
But
thinking
four,
about that
four
earlier.
parts is
Yeah.
enough to
6
give you a
degrees.
tetrahedron.
Right.
60 divided into a 6 part. Remember again, how many edges does the triangle have?
6 edges. It has 6 edges.
What is an edge?
An edge is I'm writing a paper on this. It's experienced. It's the experience that
It is a division. It is when two events meet. That's the trace of day. An edge is something like this and like that.
yeah.
The intersection of the two makes an edge.
A direct, wait a minute.
I'm writing a paper on that, and I would the
A
edge is
directed
the
edge.
experience is the interrelationship between the two nodes, and the way Bucky
Yes.
does it is that the interrelationship is experienceable by the brain, but the node is not. The node has to be intuited.
Yes. But you agree with me that you have a pattern and another pattern
Yes.
forming an angle somewhere to make that edge. It might be an edge of flow. For example, if I have water coming this way and water coming that way, when the two meet, they are going to flow that way.
Yeah.
In a direction that is perpendicular to the plane that is formed by these two.
But in Bucky's cosmography, the edge is not the first phenomenon. The first phenomenon is the dot. Then we have
Yes,
two dots.
that's what it is.
Yeah. And then we have
Exactly.
2 dots. And when we have
Yeah.
2 dots, we now can experience an edge. In fact, I'll just wrap that
Exactly.
very quickly.
So an edge requires 2 dots. So the primal were the dots, the things.
Yeah.
And you needed two things to interact, to relate, to give that edge of flow, that vector of flow.
This is part of my paper I'm writing, because what is that dot? And we have one dot, there are 0 interrelationships.
Right.
We have 2 dots, now we have an interrelationship. That's the edge right there. But the edge is a phenomena, it's an experience that is derived from the 2 nodes.
Excellent.
And
Very
then
important.
then we have a 3rd node appears, but we can't see the node. All we can see is the interrelationship with it, because the interrelationship is experienced. The node is not experienced. The node must be intuited by the mind. The brain experiences the edge. I'm writing a paper on this. So if this is interesting, well, I'm actually using this chart.
But
Go ahead.
The most amazing is to be able to expand, to understand that the 2nd column and the 4th column and the 5th column and the 6th are the same.
Yeah.
They represent exactly the same thing.
And the one thing I'm going to have a conversation with you about, Manu, is what the hell is this stuff right here? That is the shade. I understand. You know?
That is the shade behind there. And the shade has a shape. That's why it's in dark.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it.
Yes, the closest packed, you face it, what you see is a triangle like this of spheres.
Right.
But behind this, there's a continuity. There is.
You just see the face, Steve.
What's that?
You can only see the face that's turned towards you.
Yeah.
Exact.
So this is like the shadow or the subvisible.
Exact.
Yeah.
I say the shape, the shadow.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the same way your values chart works, actually.
Exactly right. I was kind of holding back on that, but here's the values chart right here. In other words, in my paper, I'm analyzing how the brain perceives the relationship of A to B, and how Bucky started labeling. And when Bucky started labeling, if I do a chart here to graph these relationships, depending on if I'm using the horizontal axis or the vertical axis, I create different values here. But notice A, B, B, C, C, D, D. This is the boundary, and this is the visible, and this is subvisible. And I think actually this chart is not actually accurate. I've just found there was an error in this chart, and because I've been working on this for like a month and a half, it's driving me freaking crazy. But I've been trying to understand this relationship, this interrelationship between the nodes, and I've been going through this whole thing. So the brain stores the experience of A to D into this is wrong. Okay, completely. I'll tell you, this has been fun. So anyway, we'll see if it's worth something. I'll talk about later. Okay. Let's see. Any other comments or questions before we wrap this up? Thank you for letting me.
You have to dare. I thank you for daring.
For daring?
For daring to write that white paper.
Yeah, seriously.
It might be ridiculed, but you dare.
That's right. What's going on here is like a miracle.
Yes.
Good. Hey, Nelson, let's
just
wrap
present it
up.
as truth.
I'm gonna. Is there an elephant in the room? This is a private conversation Joe and I are having about whether the elephants need to be contended with or not.
Yeah.
You know, if I say there's a freaking elephant in the room and you don't believe me, we have a big problem here. Then we become less than omni-rational. Aha. Okay, good. See, I slithered that in. All right, Nelson, are you okay? How are you feeling, Nelson? And were you able to get anything out of this? My brain is turning into cauliflower. What's happening with yours? How are you feeling? What's your takeaway?
Thank you, Steve. I'm feeling very good and happy. Thank you for this call. Thank you, Manu, and everyone. And I learned today more. Okay, no, it's very important to observe the nature and to learn about that. I am the observer, and the nature is the, I don't know, observe. I observe, and very important, the observation. Observation. Okay, I learned more. Thank you, thank you all. Okay, I don't know if you understand me.
Yeah,
Yes?
please pass the torch.
Okay, thank you. Susan, what do you feel and what do you learn today?
I'm grateful that there's a place to come and think about these things and talk about these things. Nelson, I appreciate you being along for the ride. You may be the youngest one on the call, and seeing how the next generation can pick these things up and run with it. You know, you're starting younger than I did, and so hopefully you'll get more done in your lifetime. I'd love to hear about your adventures. So some moments, what I'm thinking about is just perspective. So I start to get that 60 degrees. And sometimes it's tempting to think about it as a circle, but then that limits it. I think it's really spiral. So spiraling in and spiraling out the other side. And then when it all gets in motion, there's procession. You know, like Manu was saying, it's like, wow, so we've tried to slow everything down enough to look at the angles of relation. And then when we let it start running forward, we've got procession. And there in days when there's days when I feel excited about that energy and direction of creation. There's days when I feel overwhelmed by trying to understand it. But it's fun to get to go there. And thank you for keeping it light and interesting and pulling more things together. John, how are you feeling and what are you taking away from today?
Feeling more connected. With Bucky, there are times when I really struggle and I don't think I understand it all. And I believe but don't feel and understand. And there are other times when I feel that I am connected and do understand. And Bucky's work is always relevant. It's just sometimes I struggle to see the relevance and the application. But for a number of weeks now, I've been feeling more connected and understanding and believe I see the relevance. So really, really keen to explore further the opportunity to bring this to children much earlier. Like you, Susan, I think you said you first encountered Bucky in your 40s, the same here. To think that all children in kindergarten were experiencing Bucky's concepts and having a much truer understanding of nature and our place in the universe. I mean, they are the future. So yeah, feeling good, feeling excited, relatively unconfused. So that's good. So Joe, how are you feeling? What do you take out of today?
I'll tell you what, John, if I could copy what you just said, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, it's in a sense that, yeah, there's some weekends, you know, it always makes sense, but sometimes, you know, I have to work a little bit harder at the, you know, kind of understanding the concepts and applying them in a practical way. You know, for me, I liked going through comprehensive coordination. I mean, I understand in just understanding nature, and I really appreciate how Steve broke out each one of those concepts for us. And so that's one of my main takeaways. My others is just understanding the boundaries a little bit more. Every time we go through those circles of relevancy or irrelevancy is something that really helps me understand and boundaries a little bit more, but even just understanding change within that, where you know, where where order starts and chaos is, and where there's order and chaos in the universe. I always think about these circles of relevancy when it comes to that. I'm trying. We went through so much today. It's kind of like hard to just synthesize because I spent a lot of time listening. I also very much appreciated how Bucky's approach to education. I think that that's perhaps one of the more important parts that we've discussed here in the past. I think that specialization over specialization has been harmful to our society, and it actually has led to a divide and conquer strategy. So I know I'm missing a lot. I apologize for being late. I was finishing something that finishing the reading, a very long reading of the Bhagavad Gita over a few hundred hours. So that was really kind of important. And that was important. It had a very big impact on my life. So I apologize to everyone for being late, but Manu, my very, very, very good friend, my dear friend, how are you doing? What would you like to take away from that? How do you feel and what do you take away? And I feel very fortunate. I don't know if I said that.
I feel really thankful for you guys to make me feel like a baby boy with a brand new toy on Christmas morning. All right. And I think it is normal to be confused. I appreciate being confused.
Me too.
Because if I'm not confused, it means that between last week and this week, I haven't been challenged. There hasn't been anything to stir what I thought was a pattern. Remember, patterns come and they go. So I'm unashamedly confused. And I remember a lot of Becky says that I don't care of being
not understood.
Misunderstood. I'm not understood for as long as I'm not misunderstood. And it's very important to me. So we have to keep on doing this thing, being challenged, redoing, tinkering, having the impression that we've understood, that we've grown. And then the next week is we shrunk, and then we grew again. That is the normal thing. And above all, I'm very grateful for the kindergarten spirit here, you know, the willingness to be exposed, to be challenged, not to bring in considerations that are not relevant, to be teleological in this group. We all try to pursue veritas and to use what we learn to change our environment and to change around us further, like Anne is doing so brilliantly. So at the cost of repeating myself, I thank you all and I'm grateful. And Steve, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I am, wow, I look so forward to these conversations. My big takeaway today is that everything really is at 60 degrees. And just like when I put a stick into water, the illusion, the stick looks twisted, that everything is 60 degrees and my brain is twisting it into 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. That was huge for me. So I hadn't thought about that before. I'd been thinking about it reverse until tonight. So it's great to have friends who tell me that I'm wrong in such nice ways. At the same time, I have some challenges. I was listening to Jordan Peterson interviewing a guy named Mateus, who's written a book on the language of creation. And I think it's either an hour and 48 or 2 hours and 25. I've listened to it 3 times. And in this thing, this Mateus guy challenges Jordan. He says, you use the word chaos. He says, I don't get it. He says, I don't have a better word, but it's not chaos. And it is an order versus chaos. Because if there is a grand design, if what Bucky is saying is true, if synergetics is a geometry and the universe is a geometry, and things need to morphogenically compose themselves relative to that design, there is no chaos. There's lack of understanding. There's kindergarten looking at it, but it's not chaos. It's just that I'm not seeing it yet. So, and I struggled with that all week long. And then on this call, it suddenly came up. Joe said, order in chaos. I go, wait a minute, 60, 90 degrees. I have it now. I'm warped. So, so I'm from now on, there is no more chaos in my language. It's all about design. And also, and Manu, you said something about patterns come and go. And so going back to this thing, and it's all about rhetoric here. I'm not challenging you. I would say it's not patterns that come and go. Patterns, the design is always there. It's the structures that come and go. So, you know, I'm looking at these words, right? And the more clearly I can put these words out there, the more clearly I get a picture of how confused I've been all of my life and remain to be confused to this day. And I wouldn't realize how confused I am if it weren't for you good people. So thanks. Thanks, Kelly, for putting this thing together and for keeping it rolling. And I know we all think we miss Kelly every time we see an email on this. And so join me as I said in my prayers and best wishes to Kelly. It was wonderful today to look at the circles of irrelevancies one more time. Wow. And realize there's a concave and a convex. I always saw myself in the center of stuff. No, I'm in the center of this universe, and I am the universe simultaneously. I am the node. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. I've got so many great takeaways. I'm also going to put in my budget a trip to Egypt, Susan. So let's keep keep me informed of that. I want to know how many thousands of dollars that's going to freaking take. So yeah,
Baseline was 12K for that trip, plus
really
plus airlines and other stuff, but
12K plus the airlines. When John held up 10 fingers, he was not far off.
And that was 2017.
And that was in 2017 before the Arabs decided they were going to reduce gas output and join with the Russians to anyway. All right. Thank you guys. Until next week, I'm open for any kind of feedback right away. Us here, including Anne, will get that email of those 2 particular paragraphs relative to that kindergarten education. You'll get that right away. So if you want to think about it in the next few minutes, you surely can. Okay.
Okay.
See you next week.
Steve, what platform was your Jordan Peterson interview available on?
It was a YouTube video, so I'll attach that link as well for anybody who's interested.
Oh, good.
Because they go into the language of creation. So it talks about Eve being a mirror. When the Bible says help me, that was the King James translation of opposite self or mirror. And that was really powerful for me. And I had to listen to it 3 or 4 times. So I'll throw that link into the email I'm going to send out right now. Okay, guys?
Thank you.
Peace.
Take care, everyone.
Fantastic.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.